Hi, I just finished casting for the D stands for Demon, which the list will be going up this week. I don't know precisely when compared to when the video goes up because I don't know when this video is going to go up. And it got me to thinking that as voice actors, we never, ever, 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 ever get to hear how our audition did. We kind of send it out into the void and hope for the best. And in my desire to sort of give back to the voice acting community, I wish I could be the kind of producer director who actually does find the time to at least give feedback to some people, but I'm not. I did get to thinking, however, that maybe it would be edifying while my, impressions and my notes are still sort of fresh to kind of go over a little bit about how my own casting process works and highlight some of the things that were sort of common across all these sort of rejected auditions, and basically try to explain why I didn't cast you in my video game. With a big project like the D, I had so many auditions. So many, more than I was even thinking I was capable of handling. So it became really super important that everything was labeled. So I'm going to go on record right now and say that if you sent me an audition and you mislabeled it dramatically, like you didn't include your name and the character, or the email didn't have the right subject line, there was a 90% chance I didn't even listen to it. I am a woman who automates everything. And frankly, if you can't follow simple directions, I don't want to work with you anyway. Is it cynical? It's not hard. It's not hard to label a file properly. And yeah, I know some casting directors give just the weirdest things, and it drives you crazy, but you do it. You do it because you want the job. And so once all my files are sort of organized and I've broken them up into which character they're going to be, I do a really quick, maybe 15-second preview of each file to get a general idea of what I'm looking for. In that 15-second preview, I kind of immediately weed out anything that had a mic quality I knew I wouldn't be able to work with. I was super lucky that for this particular project, I have the privilege of being a little bit picky. It took me a while to get there. And I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm trying to put out a really good, high quality product that everyone who's cast in it can be proud of, that I can be proud of. And this is also sort of the time where I will give a first sort of look at the overall approach to the character an audition gives me. If I have said this character is stoic and taciturn, I'm expecting an audition read that comes across as in the ballpark of stoic and taciturn. So if I hear in those first, 15 seconds an audition that comes through as bubbly and flirty, that's gonna get put in the, file. Because one of two things happened there. Either the actor read the character, but didn't quite grasp the character, and they couldn't find something to reference in it. They couldn't find it in themselves. They couldn't find it externally. And I can't fault somebody for that, because that is it's a practice sort of thing. But it also means it's going to be a lot harder to work with them like directing. Like, there's only so much I can do as a director to get you where you need to be if you've completely approached the character wrong. There's also the very distinct possibility that you didn't read properly. That you saw stoic and taciturn and either ignored it or didn't understand it, but you also didn't ask for clarification. So I'm looking for a ballpark, and if I don't get the ballpark, then after this first sort of culling of auditions, I start listening to them a little bit deeper, a little bit longer, and I'm looking at a general tone to start making cuts again. And that's going to be like if people are too high or they're too low or the timbre is not quite right or the temperature is not quite right, which I don't even know what that means, but it makes sense to me, I guess. And if the tone isn't quite right, but the acting is still really solid, that goes into the for future consideration pile. And I really mean for future consideration. I absolutely went back to that pile when I was like, oh, I'm not really sure if I'm getting it right or not. But if the tone's not right and the acting's not great, that little pile is gonna get a little bit bigger. What I noticed is a big problem, I guess, that stood out the most to me in that regard is people trying to push too far outside the natural pitch of their voice. Because when I, mostly going too low, right? Because when I hear somebody, I can immediately tell that they're trying to push too low because it doesn't sound authentic. It sounds like a little kid trying to act like an adult on the phone. And it's very unfortunate because sometimes I know what that person's natural voice sounds like. And lots of times I don't, though. And so, yeah, I could attempt to audition them. I could attempt to accept the audition and just hope that their natural voice is good, but I don't know what the natural voice sounds like. I don't know if I can work with the natural voice because you haven't given it to me. Because what that also tells me when someone comes in trying to push too low outside their pitch is that they don't have proper mastery over their voice. And I can direct them up one side and down to Kingdom Come, but if they can't alter their tonality to match what I'm trying to direct them to do, we're going to have a bad time. So come at auditions naturally. We always talk about act in your natural voice first before you try acting in somebody else's, and it's the same thing that applies. Bring me your natural pitch. If you don't think your natural pitch matches the character you're wanting to audition for, still audition for them, but figure out the way that your voice can best serve that character in the way it already sounds. And I could probably do a whole, other big thing about that. But, that's what it comes down to, is letting me know as a director that you know what you're doing. Then we start moving into the actual acting, and that's where stuff starts getting very, very subjective. But there are some things I am looking for, objectively speaking. If it's a bad read, it's a bad read. If your emotions are flat, if you didn't actually properly act, whoop, it's going. That's all there is to it. You're an actor, act. And it feels like such a dumb thing to say out loud, but based off some of the auditions I got, I guess it's not as obvious a step in the acting process that you act. The next problem I had, I feel, is very specific to my casting call, but would in theory show up in other casting calls. Because I'm doing a partial voice acting and I'm implementing vocables and barks, I asked for actors to provide examples of them performing these little emotive sounds. And there really wasn't a good way to I gave a guideline. It's like a happy sound, a sad sound, a confused sound, a laughing sound, a greeting. But there was a little bit of improv involved. And I came across this problem I didn't expect to have, where I had a handful of audition reads where they gave the two non-improv lines excellent. They weren't spectacular, but they definitely would have made onto further consideration. But their improv was too much. It was too much. They were doing long phrases and long sentences and little mini soliloquies and kind of going overboard. I don't want to encourage anyone to not push the audition, go do it. But keep in mind what the casting director is asking for, because they're asking for it for a very specific reason. And so it was very frustrating because overall they had actually pretty good performances, but I had no idea if they were going to be able to perform the emotive sounds the way I was going to need for this game because they didn't provide evidence that they could. I could have gone ahead and cast them and just assumed they'd know how to do it. But that wouldn't make me a very good casting director, in my opinion. Especially when I had people who did better and actually provided me the information that I needed. After sort of pulling out all like the more like technical, like little things, then it just gets down into the acting that I don't even know if I know how to properly quantify as a director. Because by this point, I've reached the cream of the crop. I've reached the top contenders, the heavyweight champions. And so, this is the part where you as an actor just have to be like, because at this point, it's not anything an actor does wrong, but what another actor might have just done a little bit better. And you can never, ever, ever plan for that. And so at that point, you just gotta hope for the best and focus on making sure that all the bullshitty technical stuff doesn't get in the way of you being an actor and you getting to the point where you're at that round where the casting director is like, which one is the one I should pick? I don't know. They all sound so good. So just be good enough to get to that round. And good enough. Just get good. So that you're in that last round. That not all the little nimbly-pimbly stuff isn't getting in your way. So that was my brief synopsis on why I didn't cast you in my video game. If there was anything that you want some clarification, I probably shouldn't touch the table every time I do that. Just tell me in the comments. Give me a general idea of, what you want cleared up. If there was something I said that piqued your interest and you want some elaboration, I'm always open to share what knowledge I have. I'm not a pro casting director, but I am an actor, writer, and director, so I have worked on both sides of it, and I can do the very best I can. The D stands for Demon. It's coming out this year sometime. Cast list should be up soon, and I look forward to getting your patronage in general. Love you guys. Bye.